Hello, this is David. This is my M9 nutrition project. I have here Jonathan, who is my client. Jonathan, do you give AT Still permission to use this video?
Yes.
Very good.
As a typical college student, should I be supplementing my workouts with any kind of protein or supplementation to help build muscle?
To build muscle. That's a good question. So I have a few clarifying questions for you. First off, how old are you?
I'm 20 years old.
Do you play any competitive sports right now?
I do not.
So this is just recreational exercise that we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. Just overall daily activities. I understand you're a student.
Yes.
So lots of time studying, hitting the books, all that good stuff.
Yes, a lot of time in the classroom, a lot of time at the library, constantly seated.
Describe your workouts as more cardio or strength or kind of a blend of both?
As of now, it's definitely a blend of both. Recently, a lot more weight training oriented workouts.
What time of day do you typically work out?
It's usually late evening, 8 o'clock most of the time, around that time.
So in general, would you say that you go into your workout with several hours between the last meal and the time you're working out, or had you gotten something to eat right before then?
Yes, there is usually time, 3 or 4 hours before I work out that I haven't eaten.
Okay. So when we talk about supplementation, specifically, I think you mentioned protein supplementation. Like I was saying earlier, that's really focused on trying to enhance the recovery process. Mm-hmm. With that, we have to understand the whole process of, or at least the mechanisms behind some of the fatigue that we can feel. Now, we don't fully understand all the mechanisms of fatigue or recovery at this point, but there are two main types of fatigue that a lot of just the general research out there talks about. Okay. It's central fatigue and peripheral fatigue. Have you heard of those?
Yes.
Perfect. Well, let's talk about them for just a minute. So central fatigue is essentially governed by the central nervous system, and it's based on feedback. There's a lot of different hypotheses about the mechanisms behind central fatigue, but a lot of those hypotheses are based on feedback from the body. So the overall goal of central fatigue governed by the CNS is to prevent injury. Peripheral, on the other hand, doesn't happen in the central nervous system. It's actual chemical and mechanical breakdowns at the muscle site or the tissues that are being worked. So reduced physical activity or reduced physical capacity would be a result of this. So back to that whole point of the brain putting the brakes on performance. Like I said, there's a lot of hypotheses behind this. So let's say that a muscle is working really hard, very high level of voluntary contraction, repetitive efforts, like very similar to what you'd probably experience if you were a bodybuilder doing a lot of volume. Okay, doing enough reps, the tissue moves towards more of a hypoxic state, and the brain's going to pretty much shut down that performance, or at least rein it in a little bit, so it doesn't continue down that hypoxic trail. Peripheral fatigue, what we were talking about with the chemical depletion, we're talking about glucose at the muscle because glucose is what muscles use to operate. So if we have a depletion of the sugar in the muscle, along with just the other substrates within the muscle that are required for muscle contractions, we're going to see a decrease in performance at the muscle too. So, and then also the mechanical loading of the muscle, breaking down those cells. So there really are kind of two main goals of supplementation. Very first is that we want to provide fuel, because we just talked about how the glycogen stores get depleted in the muscle and throughout the body, so we do want to restore those. Additionally, we also want to provide some amino acids or some protein to your body as well. After a training regimen, specifically of high-intensity intermittent training or heavy lifting, we know that there is a latent period of increased protein synthesis within the body, so we want to provide some stuff to help that process as well. It's been observed that muscle protein breakdown is actually pretty minimal immediately following a workout, then rapidly increases after, and actually increases significantly by about 3 hours post workout, and even elevated breakdown of protein is persistent for up to 24 hours after your workout as well. Some studies have seen that the presence of amino acids in the blood increases insulin by 3 to 4 times the fasting levels. And really and truly, that can be attained through normal mixed meals. After eating a normal mixed meal, it takes about 1 to 2 hours for circulating substrates, whether that be protein, carbohydrates, whatever that you have in your meal. It takes about 1 to 2 hours for those circulating substrates to peak in your bloodstream. And then it takes about 3 to 6 hours for those substrate levels to return back down to normal. So you have a pretty big window there where you can take advantage of that stuff.
So my question is, you hear all this hype about having a 30-minute window between the end of your workout and when you should have protein. Uh, is that true? You only have that 30-minute window, or is what you're telling me say that I have more than 30 minutes
Yeah.
to get?
Don't really think of it as like a hard set time immediately following your workout. It's more like I guess it's more like a floating window.
Mhm.
So you have this floating window of when you know these chemicals, the carbohydrates and proteins are going to peak in your system. You have all these amino acids and everything just very present in your bloodstream. And when things come back down to their normal rate, so it's more of a floating window than like a hard set. I have to eat or something like that 30 minutes afterwards. So I did have a few studies that I had looked up to kind of help answer this question. The ones that evaluated protein and carbohydrate supplementation together looked at would it be better to ingest that immediately after or for several hours or a couple hours after, and they definitely found way more benefits in consumption immediately after. Some of the other features of the study found out that when comparing protein supplements to carbohydrate supplements, with context of those workouts, actually found that the protein supplements provided a lot better increase in fat-free mass over time than the carbohydrate supplements did.
Okay.
Because this whole idea of what would be called an anabolic window. So anabolism is basically when your body takes the pieces, like smaller molecules, and builds bigger, more complex molecules out of them. So immediately following this workout, we're looking for this anabolic window, a period of time where we want to take advantage and give it some amino acids and carbs and things like that. The idea of the anabolic window existing in a fasted state is much more realistic. For instance, right when you wake up, you would be fasted, so your amino acid balance is already in the negative. So if you were to go do a workout right after that, I mean, even though you have driven protein synthesis by doing a workout, you're still very far into the amino acid negative. So in your case, if it's been several hours since you've eaten dinner, since you're working out late in the evening, yes, then absolutely, protein and carbohydrate supplementation would be a good idea for you.
If I were to change my daily habit and get food, an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours before I work out, would that change my need for after workout supplementation?
Going back to that time frame of when we expect things to be peaked in your bloodstream, the substrates to be peaked into your bloodstream, and then that additional time we have before things go back down to the normal levels, yeah, it definitely would affect your need for post-workout supplementation. It's going to provide you with a little bit more energy to actually perform better in your workout, and it can also help you sustain that amino acid uptake into the time following your workout as well. So essentially, if you time that pre-workout meal right and you have really good quality proteins, or essentially it will act as both your pre and your post supplementation, because of the digestion and absorption is going to go way into the recovery period after your training period. So it has been shown in some research that small doses of like 6 grams of essential amino acids can elevate the level of amino acids in your blood by up to 130% for up to 2 hours post-workout. So it has also been shown that intaking about 20 grams of high-quality protein immediately before your workout increases the muscle's uptake of amino acids by like 4.5 times normal during the workout, and then even to a few hours past your workout. So essentially, if you're getting in some really good mixed supplementation, immediately taking another supplement after is almost redundant and not necessary for that. So just kind of to recap, specifically in your situation with your age and the type of training that you do, it would be good for you to definitely supplement with protein, I'd say about that 20 to 25 gram mark, somewhere in the proximity of your workout, whether it's before or after. Either one would be beneficial for you. If you do supplement before, I don't think it would be necessary for you to supplement immediately after. You can just wait for the next protein-rich meal. The protein supplementation seems to pack a little bit bigger punch than the carbohydrate supplementation on what we were trying to achieve, just based on the literature we were talking about. It's definitely good to make sure that you're trying to get your mixed meals throughout the day. It's very difficult to just try to improve your recovery by just supplementing one or two things whenever the rest of your diet throughout the day is lacking. Let's do that one more time. And the references. Really? Seriously?
Son of a... I totally just ruined that.